we are starting out with the rainbow mix. Notice that I have all my chart done, I have all my supplies, all my colors are placed just right, and I am ready to go. You are only allowed to use the primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. I would like you to know that you should place the end color on both top and bottom, and then kind of space them out so that you have plenty of room to make your secondaries and your tertiary colors when you are making your rainbow mix. I want to make sure you have the full spectrum of the rainbow able to practice. Notice I am doing my best to try and stay in square-like functions, and I would like you to know that blue is the strongest color and yellow is the weakest. Red is kind of in between for strength of pigment. So when you are mixing and you want to try and get a correct purple, you actually need more red than blue to make that kind of purple color you're looking for. Notice I'm going then down, paying attention. The more blue I add, the more I add it closer to the blue section. Trying to make my stripes nice and neat and little so that I can show off my whole ability. Oh, I made a mess right there. Accidentally touched the yellow. So I'm gonna work on my green color next, and remember that yellow is really weak. And you also need to remember to wash out that pigment from the previous color. Don't make mistakes like me, learn from my mistakes. So just adding a baby blue here, so that I have a super light green. Slowly adding more blue to it. We'll slowly bring it closer to that blue-green, that tertiary color. Almost got a true green right there. Not too shabby. And then as I add more, I'm slowly getting my tertiary color, my in-between the primary and secondary. Placing it there. I'm gonna go another step, doing my best to get those nice and skinny. And I do like to mix in those the ice cube trays. I feel like it works really well to like fully mix it. Sorry for my shaky table, I had to get clean water. Next, I have a space for my orange. And that's one reason I needed you guys to prep your palette a certain way, is so that you had spaces for your mixing. So remember, yellow's the weakest, need more yellow. Probably actually should have even had even more yellow for that yellow orange. Now I'm getting closer to true orange. And as I add more red, I'm getting closer to that red orange, that tertiary color. The rainbow mix is so that you can practice creating secondaries from primaries and also making tertiary colors, so those in-between colors. All right, next we have monochromatic. So this is using one color. And notice when I originally picked out a brush, I picked a square tip. That kind of helps me stay in the lines, even though it's perfectly easy to stay in the lines with a round brush. Sometimes the tempera seems a little dry too, and I want it thinner. If you ever want to thin out or your tempera seems too thick, add a little extra water to that tempera. It is egg based and washable, so it reacts pretty well to being wetted. With monochromatic, you do want to kind of start with your pure hue in the center. And I was going for kind of a maroonish purple color tone. Got it placed there. Next, I am moving some of my color to a fresh ice cube tray. I am then going to add the white to the original. So just a baby bit there. And then I'm going to layer it down and go the other way so that it's nice and neat. And then I'm just going to keep adding more white to that original mix. Cleaning off my brush, trying to keep my bristles nice and straight. There we go. I do miss that, like the other one, the rainbow mixed, I used that smaller brush, And I do actually kind of wish that I would have done that on this monochromatic one, just because I feel like my grid looks really chunky compared to my last one, and I would have liked more unity overall. And so I do kind of actually wish I used the smaller one, even though it is easier to mix with the square tip brush, not gonna lie. Makes my life a little bit easier, but I also then lack in the visual. So just finishing up the tint here. Remember, tint is the addition of white to a color. Just getting that placed, and then I'm gonna flip. Remember how I saved in the beginning half of my hue? I am now going to go the other way with that hue. I'm going to be adding black to it. Baby bit of black, place. And of course, black is very powerful for like a neutral. So you want to add it in increments. Even darker. You can't really see it in the video, like the true color. I feel like in real life, you can really tell those dark tones. Oh, now I'm really making a tone. I'm sorry that I use the word tone quite often, even though tone is the addition of gray to a color. So I kind of finished the black at the bottom. I'm actually going to put a couple tones down. So I had my black maroon mix and my white maroon mix mixed together to make a tone. And voila, done with that one. Now we have to work on our complementary color scheme. I'm going to use the Christmas colors here, red and green for this one. And I do want you to know that complementary colors are super handy to know, because not only can you make a good variety of different browns or neutral colors, but you can also learn to better desaturate your hues for temperas and also watercolors or any paint you use, really. So to begin, I'm just adding a baby bit at a time, trying not to go overboard there. And I think that's really the struggle, is making sure that you add enough for a tone change, but not too much that it's too drastic. And then here you'll see me continue that same process. And so I'm just adding the red to the green, and I'm slowly going in increments, just continually adding them there. And I'm going to keep that up for a good little bit. Finally getting close to the end there, and making nice scales does take time. And you guys are just so fortunate that I put this in fast forward, because no joke, making this whole tempera scale was almost a 50-minute process for me, and that's not including prepping my paints. So now, last but not least, we have our analogous scale. So you're going to choose two primaries. I'm going with my yellow color and my blue color. So you'll see me then make the secondary green, and also the tertiary colors, yellow green and blue green. Do know that when you say a tertiary color, the primary is usually said first when speaking about it. So I'm doing the same kind of thought process as I did though for my complementary scheme there, just slowly adding to one of my little divots in my ice cube tray. I keep wanting to call it an egg palette, but there's never been any eggs in this ice cube tray that I know of. So I'm gonna keep going, getting closer to my true green, slowly dirtying up my blue. Notice that, it's getting a little, it's slowly getting contaminated. with that green color that I'm making because I'm not washing my brush. So I decided I probably should put the cleanest blue I could at the top before I dirty it up too much. I'm not much of a paintbrush washer when I use temperas. I'm a better paintbrush cleaner when I work with watercolors or when I work with oils especially. But for temperas, I'm okay with a mess. I think it's just a personal preference there though. Ooh, getting closer. Slowly adding the green to my blues, blues to the greens, allowing them to mix. And this scale did turn out really nice. Oh, notice I did get super impatient. I went for the square brush to mix it faster. It wasn't making enough of a change for me, apparently. A little further, good mix. So close. And notice I really like my last two scales, I feel like are on point, even though like their edges are a little wonky. The monochromatic one is just too chunky. I wish it had thinner increments of change there. I would have scored myself higher on the rubric. But yeah, way to go! You're done!